Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. It's been about a month since we went to the well for Genesys, and in that time, there's been an incredible points update and a massive shift in the metagame. For that reason, let's take a look at some of the coolest and winningest decks of the present moment. Presenting Genesys. Firstly, let's peer at P.U.N.K. P.U.N.K was one of the two decks with two representatives in the top 8 of the Pittsburgh Genesys Invitational. This is for two reasons. Firstly, it's a deck with a relatively low point total. Typhoon is the only on-theme monster that's pointed at a meager 5. That's not to say this deck has no hits, E-Telly is like a billion, but once you make the decision to eschew that consistency tool, you've got a ton of room for powerful non-engine. Secondly, while an extremely powerful going first combo deck, this strategy also has access to a card for which very few decks have an elegant out, Psychic and Punisher. Most of this card's outs are pointed, or require a heads-up boarding pattern of Kaiju, which many decks won't be packing on the play. This list by Anthony Asatura integrates a pretty sizable uncharacterized Banish Psychics package to find the second best teleport spell. Let's check it out. Firstly, our punks. We've got 3 copies of Xiamen, 3 copies of Rising Scale, 3 copies of Foxy-Tune, a Madam Spider, triple Ogre Dance, a Wagon, 2 Deer Note, and 2 Shara-Cussy. For our Psychics, we're on 2 Mind Procedure, 3 Psychic Blaster, and double Serene Psychic Girl. For spells, we are on 2 Extreme Session, a Teleport Fusion, and a Dangerous Gabu. For non-engine, we're on triple Fuelos, triple Droll Lockbird, and get ready to see a lot of that, a Ghost Ogre, 2 Skullmeister, and 2 Book of Eclipse. In the extra, we've got a Garura, an Axon Kicker Oracle, an Absolute Axon Kicker, Rising Carp, Dingirsu, Aggregator, Punk Jam Fever, Meilong, the Cursed Thunder God, Serene Psychic Sorceress, MK2, Crossmind Archfiend, Pep, Yukio Punk Amazing Dragon, and Punk Jam Dragon Drive to search the Ghost Ogre. This is one of the decks for which we have sideboard data, so we can see they have pointed cards in the board, here these Solemn Judgments. Also playing 2 copies of Gravity Collapse, 3 Ultimate Slayer, 3 Dark Ruler, 3 Cosmic, and 2 Kaijus. So with that, let's check out a game. Our match is up against White Forest, and we are going second, which is going to give us an opportunity to leverage an incredibly powerful on-the-draw card like Pep. Our hand looks pretty bad right now, I won't lie. We've got a couple of cards that can test an end board full of negates, but this Fuelos is going to have to draw us some pretty substantial action. Our opponent's going to begin with a Magician's Souls, and this is probably one of the most powerful cards currently pointed at 0. They're going to pitch a couple and trigger the effect of the Curse of the Diabel, which we can Skullmeister. They will chain play the Diabel, which is fine. Afterwards, they get to cycle back this copy of Scourge of the White Forest, then pitch this Ultimate Slayer for an LZ. From here, we will Fualos before they perform summons. They will go ahead and bring out this LZ, then use the effect of LZ in order to fusion out an Illa Sylvia. That's one. They will pass turn, use Luluwa Lilith to get a Metal Illusionist, which draws us another, but enables them to get a negate off of this Flame Coating Metal Morph. Really cool inclusion here. From this position, they can go into Full Metal Dragon. We will activate Book of Eclipse. They will negate. We will activate Book of Eclipse. They will negate. Okay, let's see if we can't wrap it up from here. That Ogre Dance is a huge draw. It allows us to send it to the yard in order to grab a copy of Xiamen. Normal the Xiamen, and no single target negation here, allows us to get a copy of Rising Scale. We'll banish the Ogre Dance and then use the effect of the Rising Scale in order to add from our deck to our field a Shara-Kusai, whose effect we can use to get this Deer Note out of our hand and make a Carp. Carp effect is going to grab the other Deer Note alongside a Wagon to get us the field spell, and then we'll just go ahead and set that before Synchro Summoning a Jam Dragon Drive. No reason to go for a first turn Ghost Ogre. We know what's in play. So let's go ahead and grab a copy of Madam Spider, summon it out with the Extreme Session, and make a Pep on the way in order to contest the back row. Once we have done so, we can summon out the Madam Spider, which should just end the game on the spot. The Madam Spider is going to enable us to get a trap card, but it's also going to enable us to Synchro Summon Amazing Dragon and bounce everything on the field. With the life totals as they are, we can one-shot using the Psychic and Punisher for a big 81. Secondly, let's sit down with Super Quantum. Super Quantum is another archetype with almost no points in its main deck, which sounds promising, but the way it's been played in the TCG is as part of an extremely tight combo deck full of 3-ofs we have no dream of playing. As a result, this Genesys version is fundamentally different, using the Shufflers alongside Ava to plus off-the-field spell pitches. This enables the deck not only to make Magnus extremely consistently, but also to beat boarded hate like the Kaijus by means of continued interaction through Ava banishes for Heralds. There's even an argument that this list gets better post-board, as you can board into Herald Purple and Green, which we know the Duelist who performed well in Farfa's tournament was doing. This list, adapted from said Alpha and Buster brew, put up a pretty significant result in Farfa's tournament, so let's give it a shot. First up, our Super Quantums. 3 copies of Black Layer, 3 copies of Fairy Zaton, 3 copies of Fairy Alphan, double Blue Layer, double Red Layer, double White Layer, and a green. We're playing 3 copies of Minimalian, a card that is absolutely fantastic in the strategy, alongside 3 copies of Ava, which I believe is pointed at 1. We've got Herald of the Orange Lights in here, and then some fairies, Mudora the Sword Oracle, and Keldo the Sacred Protector. For spells, we're on 2 of Layer 19, 1 Alphan Spike, 1 of the Magna Carrier, it's really all you need, and 1 of Magnus Slayer. For non-engine, we're playing 3 Fuelos, 3 Droll and Lockbird, and 3 Nibiru. Pretty standard for this format. In the extra, we've got Arctius, Maelong, Garura, Princess Sprite, Assembled Nightingale, Aggregator, double Magna Liger, double Grampulse, 1 Airboros, double Lusterex, and double Quantal King Magnus of the computer. Now, we don't have sideboard data for this build, but I am pretty sure any sideboard worth its salt playing these cards would also be playing the off-color Heralds. Green against decks that have to resolve a spell, purple against decks that have to resolve a trap. Let's check out a game. Our match is up against Vanquish Soul, and unfortunately showcases one of the weaknesses of our strategy. Going first, most of your end boards are just a Magnus, King of the computer, and your opponent struggles to out it, but going second is kind of difficult, especially against a deck like Vanquish Soul, which is very competent in Genesys despite its huge point totals associated with Holly Sue and Raisin. That's in part because of the brew you see in front of you, using the Regenesis cards in order to supplement the attributes and keep a card like Caesar Valius always live. Here, they are able to flex their attributes to get the effect of the Holly Sue off and trigger the effect of the Mad Love in order to grab a copy of Vanquish Soul Start. They can start here targeting the Holly Sue in order to grab a Borgar, then Borgar back the Holly Sue for deployment on the opponent's turn. Finally, they can draw a card off of Borgar, set 1, and go for a Regenesis Warrior as part of the end board. We'll draw a Herald just a little too late. We'll begin with Red Layer and activate rank 19 to summon a White Layer from deck. We'll trigger the effect of the White Layer in order to send a copy of Black Layer, and our opponent will go ahead and draw a card as well, trying to find something to out it. We will go for the field spell, and unfortunately this is a bit of a sitting duck. They're going to go for the Caesar Valius here. We'll go for the Magna Carrier. They'll go for the Caesar Valius to pop the Magna Carrier, and we're out a Minimalian. We're going to go for the effect of the Zaton here, and then our opponent can bounce it using the effect of the Mad Love. Of course, we can just normal summon the Zaton afterwards, but they can deal with it with the Regenesis Warrior. Finally, we will go Minimalian to summon itself, at which point our opponent is forced to Vanquish Soul Snow Devil. This will wipe the field, which does proc the effects of our Super Quantums, but that's probably not enough to get back into the game. While we do have a Fairy Alphan in our hand and a Black Layer on our side of the field, we can't even get over the Raisin, all but ensuring we are going to die on the crackback. Finally, and you knew this was coming, let's rankle with Radiant Typhoon. There are a couple of interesting things you can do with Radiant Typhoon, but the most successful at present is to play it alongside Runic. The two different quick play archetypes synergize with each other and allow for deep draw into your power monsters, and the lack of points means you can just slot a couple of Pots of Greed into your main deck alongside the now pointed Cicada King and Totem Birds found in the extra. My favorite part of these lists is the Mirage of Nightmare appearance. This is the only deck playing it, but boy does it feel strong. The list we're using comes from the Pittsburgh Genesys Invitational, where this got top 8, piloted by Matthew David Huddleston. So, let's check out the individual cards. We've got 3 copies of Eldam, 3 copies of Swen, 1 Megala, 3 Crocy, 2 Phonix the Great Flame, and 1 Vibrant Vortex. For spells, we're on Triple Chant, Triple Vision, and then a whole bunch of Runics. A Destruction, Triple Fountain, Triple Tip, Triple Flashing Fire, Triple Slumber, and Triple Freezing Curses. We're on 2 MSTs and 1 copy of the Mandate, plus 2 Pots of Greed. In the extra, we have Pyron, Goblin's Crazy Beast, Big Gabonga, Ashura King, the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, Double Totem Bird, Grampulse, Cicada King, Levier the Sea Dragon, Double Dante, Savage, Zeta, and Desiree. If you figure out a reason that they're playing these cards, please let me know. In the side deck, we've got the Drolls, we've got the Fualoses, we've got Gamciel, Mirage, Dimensional Fissure, another must-play staple, and 2 Cosmic Cyclone. Let's check out a game. Our match is up against Infernoble Knight. This is a really cool strategy, and in a 55-card deck, I know I am in for some nonsense. Peep the Flame Swordsman trap, for instance. Unfortunately for our opponent, our hand is really good. We're going to begin with a copy of Eldam. That's going to go ahead and grab us a Crocy. We're going to go for the Megala next, and then activate the effect of the Chant. That's going to grab us access to Swen. We'll activate the effect of the Swen. Then we're going to overlay for a Totem Bird before we go for a Vision. We'll draw a couple of cards and trigger the effect of the Crocy and the effect of the Megala in order to get a copy of the Vibrant Vortex and the Crocy to our side of the field, which will add from deck to hand both a Mandate and an MST. Afterwards, we're going to tip for the Fountain. We will activate the Fountain. Then we will add Insult to Injury with the Pot of Greed. We're going to set 3, and our opponent's going to Nibiru. And you know what's weird is that actually I don't think I care about that. It also opens up the ability for us to use Flashing Fire to target their Nibiru and draw some cards, but they use the effect of Roland so they can trigger it in the end phase when it falls off as an equip. They will do that in order to grab them a copy of Dark Flare Swordsman. Cute, actually. They're going to lead with Dark Flare Swordsman, summoning it to their side of the field and activating the effect. That's going to grab them a Fight Fighting Flame Swordsman, who we will Freezing Curses. From this position, it will be negated, they'll banish a couple of cards, and they'll summon a Renowned afterwards. That's going to cycle for a Premature Burial, which is kind of crazy, right? They're going to go for Angelica afterwards, and the effect of the Fighting Flame in Graveyard before they go for the effect of the Salamandra in order to grab the other trap. Museum comes out, and maybe I could be a little more proactive with these MSTs, but at this point, I'm just holding it for this Premature Burial. We're going to use the effect of the Mandate in order to draw a card, potentially a Runic. They're going to go for the Museum, we let it resolve, then they go for a Durandal, and I figure, okay, fine, you have made me pull the trigger. I will MST here, and I'll chain the effect of the Mandate in order to negate the Museum, even though its effect is already applied. We will bring back the Vibrant Vortex at resolution, which gives us a negate at least. They will pre-mat and then go into a Roland. Roland triggers here, we're going to trigger the effect of our Vibrant Vortex that will negate it. Then we will Flashing Fire, targeting the Roland to get it out of the equation. We'll draw a couple of cards off this fountain, hoping for more action, and boy do we find it. Our opponent's going to equip twice to Angelica before going into Snake Eyes Doom Dragon and pushing back our Vibrant Vortex. Finally going for the Jet Synchron into Charles. We will tip at end of main in order to grab a copy of Destruction, then we will activate the Destruction in order to pop the Salamandra with Chain. Our opponent will pass and trigger the effect of the Emperor Charles, getting 2 equips. We will activate Slumber so that our Primal Being token doesn't go to the yard, and then afterwards they're just going to destroy the Mandate anyway. Okay, sure. We're going to go for Vision in draw phase, then afterwards we'll proceed to main. We'll begin with an Eldam. We'll trigger the effect of the Eldam to get another copy of Crocy, then we'll special out to Swen, activating its effect to grab an MST. We're going to overlay here for the Cicada King, then MST the Unknown. They're going to go Swords Dance, which flips down the Cicada King and makes me feel like a stupid idiot. Afterwards, we're going to go for the Crocy, activating the Crocy effect to cycle back an MST alongside the Fire Phonics, then activate Tribute in order to grab another Eldam. Fire Phonics triggers here, they will trigger the effect of the Fighting Flame Dragon, and then we are able to activate Freezing Curses in response to the Emperor Charles, which not only negates that effect, but also allows our Runic Fountain to draw us a million cards and the Fire Phonics in order to blow up our opponent's board. We don't have a battle phase here, but I'm pretty in on the banish the entire deck plan at this point. We'll go tip, and then we'll recycle Runic Fountain for that beautiful soft once per turn, slumbering our Primal Being token, and drawing 3 more cards off the top of our deck here. We're going to go for the Vision once again, cycle back this MST our own Vibrant Vortex, and then MST the Noble Arms Museum. Our opponent's going to chain the effect of Roland and chain the effect of Angelica as well. As we do so, this enables us to get the Vibrant Vortex back, and at point of resolution, we can set this copy of Chant. Our opponent draws a copy of Copycat Hero, a card that I'm not super familiar with, so I'm just going to negate it. We'll go Vibrant Vortex as they go Salamander with Chain. We'll chain the effect of Chant in order to grab back the MST. They will cycle a couple of cards for the Flame Swordsman. That way, at resolution, we can activate the effect of Phonics. They'll go Angelica as well to tag it out, but shuffling back the Problem Monster is just what we want, especially with a Flashing Fire in our hand to get rid of that monster's once per turn effect. We'll go for a Runic Tip afterwards in order to grab a copy of Freezing Curses, and then we have to burn our battle phase here. We're going to put them in a no-win situation. We'll flip up the Cicada King, go for Crocy. We'll activate the Crocy to get back the Mandate. Now we have 1 negate versus their 1-card hand. We will go for the Mandate. They will go for this Fighting Flame Sword, and then they will scoop it up. So we're back with the decks, and I'd like to talk generally about their place in the metagame. Tiers are finally developing around Genesys, with the same 10 or 20 decks appearing pretty consistently. It's of course a huge benefit to select an archetype with 0 or at least minimal point totals, then use aggressively statted turn enders like Droll and Nibiru to pump the brakes on opponents' plays, but it's hardly the only option. Vanquish is still topping. Draco Tail came within a stone's throw of winning the championship at Pittsburgh, and Onomat has to pay 33 for a Rhoda. Even though the boundaries of the format are crystallizing, there's still a ton of room to brew. Take advantage of that until you can't. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These videos are made possible by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons. Couldn't have done it without you.